There we go. Hey, everybody. As you can see, my guests for today of OPP, Original Portrait Photographers, not Calvin Harrell, but Calvin Harrell Sr. we have over here. Special edition today, the SPAC board. We're in Philadelphia planning out next year's SPAC in January. And so far, so good. We've been going through the schedule really well. And this is awesome. Get to do an OPP in person. So how you doing, Calvin?
I'm doing good.
Yeah.
You got to talk real loud because that mic is way up there.
It's way up there. Yeah. Okay. And we know, right, from SPAC Chat Calvin, every 2 weeks, right? He's done this all the time. So maybe my first question is, Calvin, how did you get into the school photography business?
That's a strange round world type question.
Yep.
Okay. I first went to school for automotive engineering.
Yep.
Okay. When I finished that, the instructor did a survey, and he found that there was only one black automotive engineer working in the country, and that was for Ford Motor Company.
Uh-huh.
And we were on the West Coast because I went to school in Berkeley, California. That's so far back. It's hard to remember everything.
It's about 70 odd years ago, isn't it?
Yeah.
75. God.
Yeah.
Longer than SPAC's been around.
Yeah.
So anyway, I finished school.
Mm-hmm.
He did a survey. There was only one black automotive engineer with a job in the country.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, well, I need to switch my major. So I switched and I went to photography school.
Really? Yep.
Yeah. And when I was ready to graduate, there was I don't remember his name. There was a guy working at Cal that they were starting some kind of new department, a photography department. So he came and got me to come to his home and do an interview and so forth. And so he ended up hiring me. So I went to work for the University of California as a photographer, and in the lab, for crying out loud, it was a nice lab. It was adequate, good space and everything. But then they had all the chemistry. They would do something. They would do a single job, and they would use chemistry out of the bottles, and then never use that bottle again.
Oh, so it's like wasted just for that one job.
It was just a total waste.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was there for about a year or so, and I got tired of seeing that.
Yep.
And so I took and put the bottles together, the developer and so forth, in the different bottles, and ended up, and now we had a nice, clean shelves with chemistry, any kind of chemistry that you wanted, and everything was going along fine. Well, the boss came in, the guy that hired me, and he looked at the stuff, and he said, "You're fired."
Just like that.
Yeah. Well, I'm making it short. And so I said, "What for?" He says, all these chemicals here, each was used in an experiment, and we want the specific bottle used in a specific experiment recognized, and you just messed that up.
Oh, okay. Yep.
But it wasn't labeled.
Huh?
It wasn't labeled.
Yeah, it was all labeled.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
For each experiment?
Yes.
Oh, you messed up.
It was labeled with a number.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And so I said, oh, okay. And I went to his hiring department.
Mm-hmm.
And so I told him, I said, well, look, I've been fired, and blah, 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 when is my last day and so forth. And so they tried to keep me. They said, well, we'll send you to
Radiation.
yeah, but there was two of them. There was one about 30 miles or so away. And I said, oh, I have to drive 30 miles every day.
Yeah, to and from. Yeah.
I said, well, no. I said, I don't want to do that. Yeah. I said, so I quit, and I went into the private business. Basically, it was weddings to begin with, and then I extended that into schools.
What year was that you got into schools?
Let's see.
1971. Class of 72, Oakland Technical High School.
First school, right? Yep.
Okay. And I think Berkeley was.
Tech was. Yeah. Following you at Berkeley.
Okay, so you're right. So yeah. So I went into schools, and then I expanded. I did McClymonds and Tech and
Fremont,
Berkeley,
and that's expanded from there.
Berkeley. And then I also went into grammar schools and elementary. So that's how I grew the business.
Yep. Right. That's how you got in it.
That's right. At that time, like, do you remember what cameras that you were shooting? What cameras were you using?
Yeah. I started off using a camera that I made.
Well, that's when you made the long roll camera. You took a twin lens reflex camera.
Wow.
Cut the back off, attached the long roll back.
Yep.
Hand advance, and that's how he did it. You could get 650 split 70 images on a roll. And back in those days, a photographer could shoot 600 kids a day.
Oh yeah,
Different world.
Yeah, back in the film days.
Oh my gosh,
seriously, you could shoot.
You could shoot a whole lot more in the film days, so that meant efficiencies were much higher, etc.
Yeah, I don't remember why we could shoot so many more with film than we could with digital.
I don't know. We don't know the reason why either, because photographers everywhere would love their personnel to be able to move 600 bodies through in a day.
Yeah, I guess we gotta go back to film then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you need to build some cameras for some people. Yeah.
So that's the way I built the business.
I got started and built.
And at that point, did you do your own processing? You have your own lab, or did you send your stuff out?
No. Well, the very beginning, I sent my stuff out, and then after that, I get into building a building.
Getting a building and all of that.
Yeah.
So anyway, when I had my lab, it was on the. I bought a house that had a room that I turned into a lab.
Okay. Yep.
Then
back in the 50s.
Yeah. And then
hopefully it wasn't the kitchen.
No.
No.
So then I moved the house to the back of the lot, and I bought another building and moved it into the front of the lot.
You picked up the house
Yeah.
and moved it to the back.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah.
And so that came from the automotive engineering.
Yeah, background that you had there.
And so then I bought another building, and I put it in front. It was a more modern building. The house that I moved to the back of the lot was 100 years old.
Okay, yeah.
The more modern building that I bought was, I think, about 20 years old.
And like, where did you find that house? Someone just said we're gonna tear it down, or we want to sell the house.
No, they were building a key system. Was building
BART.
BART.
They were building BART, so it was a condemned house. BART is the Bay Area Rapid Transit System.
Exactly. Yeah, the train.
And so this building was located in North Berkeley, which is about what, 5 miles, 6 miles?
No, not I don't think it was about 3 miles.
3 miles. Okay.
And then so you'd hire a truck
Yeah.
to drive it down the street.
Well, it was fascinating because we broke into that house before he bought it. We peeled the plywood off and went in and walked through the building, and he was telling us how he was going to cut this off. And I was a little boy at that time.
Yeah,
But the person that was selling it actually was a rigger, a house moving rigger.
Oh, it worked out then.
It worked out really well because he needed to move the house,
Yeah.
and he got it for a song.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
you made the money off the rigging. You didn't
Right.
pay to get rid of it.
Right. And interestingly, back at those times, loans weren't available for people of color.
Got it.
And the rigger said, "That's okay. You can pay me over time," because at the end of the day, he was losing his whole ass, the whole deal.
Oh, that's a good. Yeah.
And so what he did was he arranged for payments over time, and
Wow.
that's how he did it.
Yeah.
So I told the guy, I said, look, I don't have the money to pay you for the house.
Yep.
I said, so I can pay you for the moving of the house.
Yep.
But the house, I have to pay you over time.
Yep.
So they were going to tear the house down because he had moved it along as far as they could.
Got it.
On the ahead of the track builders.
Yep.
And so he said, well, I'm stuck. They're going to tear it down. And he gave me the date.
Yep.
And I said, yeah. And he says, okay, I'll take the deal. So he moved the house. I paid him for the moving of the house. And
Yep.
Then I paid the house off. And so that was it. So then I converted. No, first I rented the apartment.
Oh yeah. So it ended up being where it is today, and we still own that piece of property.
Yep.
It's now 3 4-bedroom apartments,
Oh, okay. So convert the house to
1
what?
2-bedroom apartment, and
Yep.
these are homes. They're not apartments. They're
Yeah,
way
yeah.
big. So it's a 4-1, 4-2. I'm sorry, 3 4s and 2, 1 2-bedroom, and that's just been a lifesaver, or as a long-term holding piece.
Exactly,
It's a beautiful, appreciated piece of property.
And you've had that
It's
since
about-
the 70s, right?
Yeah, and it's about a 10,000 square foot building.
Nice.
So it works.
Yeah. So it shouldn't be that like a maze that you built a longbow camera because you were able to move a house to the back, get another house and move that. So
Well, the journey, when you start, poor man's automation, I refer back to that. A lot of people wonder what that was. Well, that was all hand working equipment.
yeah, you were gonna make it work.
You were going to make it work, whatever it was. And that was the genesis of the camera because you couldn't change, 24 shot rolls photographing high schools
He's
and that
changing
sort
it
of
every
thing.
5 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's where he broke down the camera. And I'm like, I'm a little boy again. And I'm like, what are you doing? I'm building a camera. Huh? It's a mind, it's like your brain explodes. How are you going to build a camera?
Yeah.
We go to the store and buy cameras.
Yeah.
Lo and behold,
Well, you built it.
you didn't have the money to buy cameras like that at the time.
You had to figure it
So
out.
you had to figure it out. So that's what he did. And it created a culture of resiliency.
Totally.
As a second generation party in that thing, I kind of caught that bug.
Yep.
There's nothing that you cannot overcome.
Exactly.
It takes patience.
Yep.
Sometimes it takes money.
Yep.
But it's more patience than money, because if you got patience and you're thinking through the process,
Yep.
you can work your way around it.
You can. Yep.
And I think that's been, when I look at him, the life lessons that I've received over 67 years are pretty damn powerful, because that's something we live by.
Yeah. No,
and you do too. Your family does too.
Same sort of
make
thing.
it happen.
You got it. Yeah. You can figure it out, right? Like,
Good Lord.
Yeah. So do you remember the first SPAC that you went to, and what year approximately?
SPAC. It doesn't seem that it was named SPAC.
Well, there's probably, you went to PMA, right? And then I don't know when PSPA came
No,
in.
I don't know if PMA was even around at that time.
Really?
Yeah, and when the School Photographers Association of California was founded in the 1950s, there was no PMA or PSPA.
Got it.
I think that his first rendezvous with School Photographers Association of California, what we call SPAC, the acronym SPAC, was right after he began to photograph, after he picked up a couple of high schools.
So maybe
and
like
part
early
of,
70s?
Yeah, and part of that, in candor, part of that was the old folks wanted to know, old boys in the industry want to know, how is this person succeeding in this marketplace?
Yep.
Because all of a sudden there's major high schools that he's picked up.
Yep.
Well, the way you find out how somebody's doing things, you invite them into the club.
Exactly.
And then you can understand and figure out, and then do I have a ally or do I have a formidable foe? And should I even tiptoe into that area? Because if they're strong in that area, what is the use of us pushing our sales reps over there?
Exactly.
And so that was a blessing at that time.
Yeah. So like first SPAC, you went to early 70s.
Yeah.
We were talking before. Do you remember like what hotel that first one was in? Or it bounced around a bit, right? In the 70s at SPAC. I think you said it was at the Sahara.
Yeah, it would be at a different hotel
Every year.
Yeah.
I think you guys went to Imperial Palace. You went to Flamingo.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was at a different hotel every year, and you wonder. There was such a small group. We were using a suite.
Yeah, it was someone
Just get a suite,
and then everyone chipped in for the suite.
maybe 30 people, 40 people in the room, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you wonder at this point, when we get to this stage of what we're doing in SPAC, you wonder if they moved year to year because they kicked them out of the previous hotel.
Maybe the partying was
because
too
the
much.
partying
Yeah.
was the partying.
Yeah. So
You know what? I'm listening to the two of you on earphones.
Yeah.
I wonder, when both of you are talking, what does that thing do?
It hears us both.
it listens.
It listens
listens.
to both of you at the
Yes.
same time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now when somebody is watching this thing, they're going to hear two people talking at the same time, and they're going to switch back and forth between who's saying what.
Yeah. Yeah, they will.
Yep. Yeah. That's all right.
Wow.
So so it's good to hear that the legacy of SPAC and having a good time and hanging out in the suite and maybe not getting kicked out, but basically having a good time like still continues to this day, right? So yeah.
Developing stuff, developing equipment. We got ideas from each other as to how to develop a piece of equipment.
Yeah. So do you guys actually bring your cameras and show other people?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So,
Wow.
so that was part of it.
Yep.
And went on and went through the whole line. So now you're doing university.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you from kindergarten through university.
Yep.
And we've never been able to do that without a group of individuals willing to share
Yep.
the information that they had in their heads.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you were an active member of SPAC until like what year do you think that you were still in the business?
Well, I ended up being president for 2 years.
No, not SPAC. You were actually president of School Photographers of America. Professional School Photographers of America.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for a couple of years.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then when Roy died, for crying out loud, that thing strong.
Yeah, that's PSPA.
PSPA. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was the big proponent of that.
Yes.
Yeah. And well, that was just the end of that.
But were you ever a board position with SPAC or helped out? So then how did you get nominated then?
Because I told the story. I'll make it quick. I got married, and he sent us on a cruise for our honeymoon.
Yeah.
He and Mom sent us on a cruise. It was lovely. And I got back to the office, and I passed his office, and he shouted out, "Hey, congratulations!" So I stuck my head back in. I said, "Congratulations! You did that already, Dad. It was a wonderful cruise. Thank you."
Yeah.
He said, "I'm not talking about that." So I turn around and come into the office, and he and Mom shared an office desk across from each other. And he says, "I said,
20
well,
by 20 in the office.
yeah, 400 square foot office." And he says, "I said, well, what are you congratulating me for now?" He says, "Well, you're the new secretary treasurer of SPAC." And I said, "No, I'm not. I didn't volunteer for that." He said, "No, you didn't volunteer. I told you what you're going to be." I said, "But I don't want to do that." He said, "But I pay your check." And that was kind of the end of it right there.
You gotta do what he said.
It's
You gotta
like,
do the boss says.
The boss said.
Yep.
And he gave me the time to do it.
Yep.
And at that time, what the drive was, quite honestly, was because the old timers were old timers.
Yep.
They were timing out, and they wanted to see the organization continue. And their thought was, we need to bring younger people onto the board.
Yeah.
And Gary Kranz was there.
That's right.
At that time. But Gary Kranz was young compared to them. And so they said, well, Calvin, what about Calvin Jr.? He said, yeah, I can get him to do it. And that was the end of it.
That was it. Yeah.
So I came in, and Gary and I did more marketing. Gary's side was to market to the vendors.
Yeah.
And my side was to market to a membership.
Got it.
And we had a very collaborative, cohesive, constant contact thing to make it grow. And we started to grow incrementally.
And what year was that you came in there?
1985.
So you're part of SPAC for like a good 10, 15 years.
Oh, yeah.
We're like probably a big part of the industry there. And then you kind of grew up, and then you got nominated to come in.
That's it.
Yeah.
And they've been open arms in engagement and accepting. Quick to know a bullshitter.
Yeah.
For the folk, those folks knew that game.
Yeah, of course.
But they were looking for communicating in a different way.
Yeah.
Their communications were always they were using telegrams back in those days. But their communications were a single letter, to the people that they knew.
Yeah, that's right.
And so we developed a newsletter, actually, and that was back at the time before you were born, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But that was back at the time that you used acetate lettering. If you wanted to have bold lettering or something of that nature, you could type it out on a Selectric and paste blocks. Yeah. But then you could rub off large letters to make your headers and headlines. So that's how far back. And we started a newsletter doing that. Took a lot of time.
Did you like once a year? Or?
No, it was going out once a month.
Wow.
Yeah. And we put together the money, but it wasn't a big group, a big list to mail to.
Yeah. What was the size? I guess your mailing list would have been the number of
At that time, it was maybe 50 at the start, and within a few short years, it was up to 200 and 300.
So
and
really,
then,
from the 70s, it was around 30. Once it got to around the 80s, it was still at 50.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it was small.
Yeah.
And then with the advent of the use of electronic communication, internet, and that sort of thing, it became far more viable. Or the growth started going. We switched from mailing to faxing.
Yeah.
Back in those days, so we'd fax a single page, 2-page
What's a
newsletter.
fax machine? What's a fax machine?
You
I don't even
remember
know
a
what
fax
that is.
machine?
Do I remember it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just in an evolution since that time for the organization.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's interesting because he's seen all of it.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. So you can share. How old are you today?
95.
95.
A month. 95 years, 1 month.
Yeah, that's right. You just celebrated.
We just had a 95th big birthday for her. It was wonderful.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you still come to the conferences, right? You're still part of the industry, right? You're still hanging out and you're still seeing what's happening.
But I find that although I can still move, I don't fall down.
Yep.
Walking, I have to throw my legs forward.
Yeah.
I'm using more effort
To
than
walk.
I used to use.
Okay.
That's something that is new to me.
There you go. Yeah. And that's why you got to rent the scooter for SPAC. Right?
Absolutely.
Lots of walking. I think people are doing
yeah.
25,000 steps.
Yep.
On the trade show day.
It just makes it a lot easier.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
My thing is, if he gets lost, he can drive around and find his way. Okay?
Exactly. Yeah. If you lost, you got the horn on that.
That's
thing,
right.
It's honk.
Beep beep.
That's something to find it. Yeah. Yeah. Well, amazing. I mean, I appreciate me asking you to do this interview and find out, and a true OPP, right? True original portrait photographer. Huge in the industry. Your son's okay, but yeah.
We started to taking in other people's work and concepts
You got to talk to the thing.
and
We took in other people's work.
Yeah. So
and
you
did
use
some
your lab.
processing. Yeah.
Yep.
and sending it out after they would send work to us. We would process it and send it back to them.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
There was no home delivery.
yeah,
No.
there was not enough process. And there's people going broke and not paying me.
Yeah.
So
Abandon that model.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I guess it goes back to like what you first talked about is when you did those experiments back at the university, there was leftover chem. So when you did your own processing, you're like, look, I got leftover chemistry. I have time. I can bring it in and utilize some of the technology that you had back then and resources, right?
Yeah.
But like you said, people aren't paying bills and there's no margin or the margin's fairly low on it. Then why are you doing it, right? You're doing other stuff, right? Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
And then equipment. When you have a lab, and a lot of people don't appreciate folks with the labs and our lab partners in SPAC. The equipment, you've got to use that equipment up in 5 years because the technology is completely different in 5 years at this point.
Yeah.
If we put a timeline together and we look what it's been like in the last 50 years, there's been radical shifts
Definitely.
in what can be done and how it's done.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes your technology changes so quick, you're still paying the lease on the machine.
You're damn right. You're right.
You're not using it anymore.
You buy $250,000 worth of equipment.
Yeah.
You're still paying for that equipment, and you need to replace that equipment because it doesn't function properly or whatever.
Ideally, you want to buy the equipment, pay for it in 3 years and use it for 20.
That's right.
Right?
That's the perfect.
That's the model.
But good luck.
Exactly. Not anymore. Not like the film days, right?
No.
Where those machines would just run forever.
Yeah.
Well, perfect. Well, I appreciate coming on here. Thanks, Calvin Senior. Thanks, Calvin Junior. Yep.
It's been a long time, but it's also been a lot of headaches and a lot of fun.
There you go. Yep. That sums it up for all of us.
That's everybody.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, thanks, everybody.
Okay.
All right. Bye.